Okay, well, starting a little bit early.
Looks like people are trickling in here. Okay.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining our Advancing Agricultural Innovation Showcase. There's a few more folks trickling in from the waiting room, and since we're a little bit ahead of schedule, we're going to give them a few minutes and then we will get started. Okay, and to let all of our participants know this morning, we are going to be recording this session. A few very brief housekeeping items. We greatly encourage your questions. Please feel free to use the chat to ask them or come off mute. And if you have any troubles getting off of mute or raising your hand, just let me know and we can help you there. And with that, I think we will go ahead and hand over to Mark Huizinga to take us into our presentation this morning.
Well, I think it's still just a little bit early here, Katie. My clock says 9:57, so we might want to wait just a few more minutes to allow others to join before we start.
That sounds good. That's a good idea. I'm getting ahead of myself here. And everyone, if you've just entered the room, we're waiting until right at 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock East Africa time to really get our session started so we can give everyone a chance to join. And while we're waiting, actually, if you'd like to introduce yourself in the chat box, please feel free to do so. We're excited to have everyone here.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, everybody. We're just giving
Yeah,
a few
yeah,
more minutes to get started.
Yeah, this is Brighton Mulonga.
Welcome, Brighton. We're glad to have you
Yes,
with us.
yes, I'm joining you from Zambia.
Welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Hello, afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Dorothy Soko. I'm also joining you from Zambia, from Telsa General Dealers.
Wonderful to have you, Dorothy.
Agrotech class is an all. Yes, hello everyone.
Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. My
Yes.
name is Ippolito Amela. I'm joining you from Mozambique. Thank you.
Wonderful to have you.
Hello.
Good afternoon. This is Chongo Chibawe joining you from Zambia as well. Hi, Brighton. And
Hi, Chongo.
Soko.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Long time.
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
Hello everyone. This is Elisha Caleb from Kenya, the founder of Agrotech Plus, an all-encompassing digital platform that is bringing technology to the field of agriculture. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Okay, everyone. Well, while we're at the top of the hour here, we're going to get ourselves started with our session. Please do continue to use the chat box to introduce yourself. We're excited to have you. A few quick housekeeping items for those that missed my first bit on this. We are recording the session. If you have any trouble coming off of mute, please let me know in the chat and we can help you out. And otherwise, we greatly encourage your questions and thoughts. So please do put them in the chat box, and we will reach a point after Mark gets through his presentation here for questions and answers, at which point we'll be excited to engage with everyone. So with that, at 10:01 here, I think I will hand it over to you, Mark Huizinga, to take us through our presentation.
Right, thank you very much, Katie. So we are really pleased to be able to have this opportunity to tell you today about some of the work that our Feed the Future Innovation Labs have been doing for USAID. And this encompasses all aspects of agriculture research. Today, what we're doing is providing you a snapshot of 13 innovations that are now in the AGRF DealRoom marketplace. And so you'll be able to find these in the marketplace, and we'll show you how to get there at the end of this brief presentation. So USAID is able to provide our private sector partners with a pipeline of innovations to advance their individual business objectives, while we hope revolutionizing the food system by increasing on and off-farm productivity. So the innovations you see are really just a small sample of the total number of innovations that are on the shelf, waiting for uptake, or are moving through the Innovation Labs pipelines. So what is it that we're offering? So the 13 innovations, these are all market ready, we believe. There has been some uptake of all of them, but there's really a lot of uptake, future uptake potential. So these innovations have been designed to save money, to save time, and bring efficiency to operations, and to improve product quality. USAID's innovation labs are with top-tier US universities for research and development of cutting-edge technologies with the aim of increasing productivity, as I'd already said. Our innovation labs provide research to buy down the time, cost, and risks involved in research and development by being able to provide problem-solving research services and carefully vetting the technologies that they're developing through internal expert teams. So we support a pipeline with a great deal of these innovations. Some of them are new varieties of crops, to post-harvest technologies, to nutrition enhancing innovation. So it really is a broad spectrum. The innovation labs seek to invest the funding that comes from USAID into research and development that incorporates, that can be incorporated into business models of firms such as those here in the DealRoom. In 2019, as an example, we've deployed over 1,500 innovations in 28 countries. And these research investments span the whole agriculture sector and offer commercial opportunities involving really reduction in post-harvest loss and waste, food processing and post-harvest handling, integrated pest management, and a whole wide variety of crop emphasis, from peanuts to soybean to horticulture. So Katie, if you would move on. So I'm going to give just a couple of examples here. Could you advance the slide, please? There. So this is an example of one of the innovations that's come out of the UC Davis Hort Lab. It's the Kansas State post-harvest lab. This is a dry corn. And the dry card is a reusable tool that helps to determine if a product is dry enough to prevent mold growth during storage. It enables smallholder farmers, traders, and processors to measure the relative humidity of food being dried before storage using a cobalt chloride humidity indicator strip. Users place the sample of a dried product in an airtight container with the dry card and seal it in a plastic bag or jar and let it sit. After about 30 to 60 minutes, so it's relatively fast, the indicator strip measures the relative humidity and it'll turn blue if it's dry enough to signal that the product can go into storage, or it'll stay pink if it's still too damp and needs further drying. The dry card is an inexpensive product to make. It requires only printed paper, cobalt chloride strips, which are around $4 per 100, and plastic lamination, which is usually around $2 to $3 per 100. So UC Davis is seeking partners in new markets. Entrepreneurs and agri-dealers can apply with them to become recognized dry card vendors and receive technical support from UC Davis. Entrepreneurs are encouraged to bundle the dry card with low-cost drying and hermetic storage solutions. PIX bags or zero-fly bags might be examples to address the full spectrum of smallholder farmer and trader needs. Moving on to the next innovation example. So this is a multi-crop thresher. The multi-crop thresher was developed by the Soybean Innovation Lab, but it has much broader applications than merely soybeans. It can cover a whole multitude of crops. So this thresher is a field-tested solution that can shell maize and husk and thresh soybean and rice products with little or no grain loss or breakage. Its interchangeable concave sieves make it usable for many different crops. To date, customers have successfully used the multi-thresher on maize, soy, rice, sorghum, millet, cowpea, and common beans. The technology is sized and priced for mid-sized farmers or for threshing service providers that can provide threshing services to smallholder farmers or others. The manufacturing cost ranges from $3,000 to $5,000 generally, depending on the cost of local material. It's manufactured specifically for the rougher field conditions present where smallholders operate and where smallholder farming is prevalent. The multi-thresher can be locally produced using locally sourced parts. The Soybean Innovation Lab offers customized training workshops in multi-crop thresher fabrication. So if there's questions on how to produce, manufacture the thresher, support is available. And the threshers can be locally repaired, which is also going to help address some of the challenges that might otherwise be experienced if machinery is imported. So go on to the next slide, Katie. So this is an example of, well, where the 13 innovations originate that are being presented in this showcase. So there's innovations featured by Purdue University, UC Davis, Virginia Tech, the Soybean Innovation Lab, Kansas State University that has the reduction of post-harvest loss Innovation Lab, and University of Georgia Peanut Lab. So you'll find their products here in the marketplace, and they are available to engage with you about any questions that you might have. So these innovations, again, they're just a small sample of things that are awaiting prospective investors or entrepreneurs. And just to go through these in some more detail, there's a high efficiency solar dryer that can dry fruit, vegetables, and other products. There's a hygrometer for measuring moisture content in maize, which is different from the dry card. There's a mini extruder that will help produce food formulations and process food products. There's a CoolBot, which is a way of very low cost way of controlling the temperature in a cold store and monitoring the system and its use, and provides a warning system as well. There's a pallet dryer designed particularly for coffee and grain. I've mentioned the dry card. We have a chimney solar dryer featured in there. There is another product, a biocontrol product called Trichoderma, that is a soil amendment that helps to manage crop diseases. There's low cost, locally produced multi-thresher, which we've discussed, zero fly hermetic bags, a moisture meter, another moisture meter for low resource settings that is really quite low cost and can be produced easily locally. There's a motorized peanut sheller and aspirator and a motorized peanut grading table. So these are among the innovations that you'll find in the showroom today. So with that presentation, we are available to take questions and see where we go from that. So Katie, if you want to help lead this conversation now, we'll see if we can help you understand what it is we have available.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. And as you were talking, we did have a few questions come in through the chat box. So maybe what I'll do is highlight those for you very quickly, and then we can move to everyone on the line and see if folks want to raise their hands. So if you're thinking of a question at the moment, please go ahead and raise your hand. For you, Mark, at the moment, I'm going to start with one from Chris Lindinger. And apologies to everyone in advance if I mispronounce your name. But Chris is asking, when processing soya, one needs to check for the proper inactivation of the anti-nutritional factors. Is there any simple solution for that?
Well, so we do have our soybean innovation lab, and I'm not sure if anyone from the lab is available today on this in this session, but that is a question that we could address directly to them and get an answer to you. So I'm glad to follow up with the Soybean Innovation Lab on this question.
Great, thanks, Mark. And we have another question in the chat box from Demru. Is it easy to reach a number of beneficiaries using multi-crop thresher? It seems very huge. I think this is suitable based on the landscape.
So this is going to be a product that could actually reach, I mean, it depends on how efficiently you run your operation, but and the size of the land holdings, but it can thresh a fair number of hectares per day. And I think some of this information, if you look in the site here where we have it listed in the marketplace, it'll give you some of that information and also suggest how you can find out answers to specific questions that you have. So I don't have that knowledge right at the top of my head as far as how many hectares it can cover, but I think that's actually available relatively easily just by referencing the information we have.
Great, thank you, Mark. And I see Priscilla has her hand raised. So Priscilla, if you would like to come off mute and ask your question.
Good afternoon from Ghana, in Tamale specifically.
I thank you so much for the presentation. These are very interesting and it's good to know. I, however, wanted to ask more specifically if you have any technology that can work for rice drying. So in the rural communities, women use traditional methods to dry their rice. And I was wondering if the solar dryer could function, could provide that service for the women in terms of drying the rice, any other technology that exists to offer them that drying service so that the work is easier on them. Thank you.
So this solar dryer, we have developed a number of solar dryers through different innovation labs. My recollection right now is that this particular solar dryer probably would not handle rice, but we do have other dryers that are, I think, available, ready for uptake, that would be able to dry rice. And we would be glad to follow up on your question. What you could do is leave an email address or contact Katie or I separately, and we can follow up with the innovation labs that would be able to answer that question as far as what would be the best options.
Yes, thanks, Mark, and thank you, Priscilla, for that excellent question. And I'll take a moment to just reiterate Mark's point for those that are just joining us. I will place our email addresses in the chat box so you have access to those, but if at any point we're not able to fully answer your questions, please feel free to both reach out to us, and then you'll find when you go to the actual pages within the marketplace for all of these technologies, there is the ability there to send a message, and that will come to me, and we can help direct those to the correct points of contact with our innovation labs if we're not able to answer them for you now. With that, Brighton, I see you also have your hand up. We can move to you.
Yes, can I speak, please?
Yes.
Okay. If I speak.
Well, it's my turn, I suppose.
Yes,
Brighton,
please, Brighton, and we're going to go through the list.
Yes, just a quick one, a quick question on the dry card. I know this is a pretty new innovation, but of course, the availability of cobalt chloride may be a challenge for us, especially who are coming from the rural parts of countries in terms of accessing it and the cost. Probably maybe some much more information should be given. The other thing is why the dry card, and why not promote the common moisture meter? The reason is simple. The availability of the dry card, as well as any other reagent to be used, may still pose a challenge in terms of acquisition. So if you're looking at rural communities, trying to have some kind of support to try and limit post-harvest losses, probably we might need to work a little bit further in trying to make sure that these innovations actually serve their intended purpose. The last question that I would like to pose is basically in the post-harvest losses, all those that have been working on innovations, I would like probably to look at an innovation that will go towards detecting mycotoxins and aflatoxins in most grains and of course peanuts. You'd find that this poses a critical danger for some of us who are also in livestock feeding, and you'd find that half the time they go undetected. Is there anything that probably the presenter might say on most especially on the last one as well, mycotoxins and aflatoxins and their testing? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll start with your first question. Those are all good questions too, by the way. But starting with your first question, so there are many different moisture measuring technologies have come out of our different innovation labs, suited to either different crop types or different types of challenges. The dry card is a particularly, I guess, adept innovation for its low costs and adaptability in being able to reach distribution channels that a more expensive technology might not be able to reach. It would be more suited to more remote smallholder farmers or situations where there's not a lot of resources. Of course, it's always a challenge to get a new market started. And that, I think, would be one of the challenges you're bringing up with the dry card is, okay, so we need to get a market started here. What's the best way to put our foot forward in that? And I think the folks either in the Hort Lab or some of our colleagues in USAID are actually positioned to be able to provide that initial market inception push that would allow a technology such as the dry card to get bootstrapped, right? So that's one of the opportunities with respect to the dry card is just, bootstrapping a new innovation. But there are also a lot of other innovations. So the hygrometer, but there's further ones that have come out of, so like our post-harvest innovation lab. Depending on the situation and your particular challenges, it would be possible for us to right fit what it is that you need with what it is that some of our innovation labs have that could be usable. So that would be something that we can help you explore, or our innovation labs could help you explore. With respect to aflatoxin, yes, there are a number of aflatoxin detectors out there with different levels of reliability. And like the moisture challenge, there's opportunities that we can provide to help you identify what's the best innovation, the best technology that would enable you to right fit what it is you need with your business. But there are several reliable mycotoxin, aflatoxin readers available at different price points, depending on what it is you really need. I think Mr. Muleta has a question.
Yeah.
Ethiopia, is that correct?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Mark, for your nice presentation, and also Kate for your coordination. I have two questions. The first one is, please, would you more elaborate on the innovation of integrated post management? Since we have a problem of it, as you know, Ethiopia is just manifested by these desert locusts. Is a dangerous insect.
Okay.
And the second point is, please, what is your plan for future, just to adopt or to just work for others as a market strategy for others? Yes, we are very interested on such to work on it. And also, I've just contact in to get your address through your chat for your personal. Please, would you forward me your contact addresses in detail so that we can just for future negotiate on this, the certain innovations They are very impressive, and also we need it to transform our food. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Yeah, so with respect to the first question on pests generally, so we do have a lab that focuses specifically on integrated pest management, and we can link you to the people there. So that's led by Virginia Tech, and they have been our principal resource for addressing the types of integrated pest management challenges that you're experiencing, for instance, in Ethiopia. They've worked really closely with us on addressing pest challenges for fruit, for vegetables, fall armyworm, and we would be glad to provide you their contact information and link you to them. With respect to your question about more broadly adapting research, the R&D challenges to your specific needs. So this is the kind of thing where if first of all, if you have a contact with the USAID mission in your country, they would be the key point. Let them know, hey, we're having these specific problems, and they can work with us to get the innovation labs expertise if that problem really is sufficient that it warrants that type of focus. But that would be the way I would recommend going is to work through our USAID mission, because they're the main in-country contact point.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mark, and I see we also have a hand raised and some questions from Jay Cyrus. If you'd like to go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Sarah Sigwe from Liberia, West Africa. Thank you for the presentation. Innovation platforms or innovation labs have been very exciting interventions in developing countries, and Liberia being one of the many developing countries that we look forward to enhancing our own technologies that could be introduced and sustained. My concern has to do with the sustainability of these innovations. How have we been able, from your own experience, been able to work with private sector to be able to sustain these interventions after project phase out? And also, how has government been able to complement on the kind of effort you make, perhaps through research and development, to domesticate most of these innovations that you have in your lab? Thank you.
Well, so another good question. And I will say by way of example, so the Purdue crop improvement bag, so PICS, Purdue improved crop storage, right? So those are a good example of something that has come out of one of our labs in the past that we see now adopted really widely across sub-Saharan Africa. It took some considerable effort to get to that point. As you observe, within a project framework, there may not be room for achieving sustainability. But our focus with our innovation labs is longer than just a project time frame. And we are committed to working to find business models and finance support if that's an important part of solving the problem, that will help get an innovation initiated in the marketplace and eventually get it to scale. So if we're looking at something like the improved the PICS bags for improved storage, then at this point in time, I wouldn't be surprised if we're over 5 million, right? Where that number has been sold and are being used by smallholder farmers and others across sub-Saharan Africa. That example is, I think, the example we want to emulate with a lot of these other innovations. And then, so also if we're looking at, on the other hand, new varieties of crops, again, it's a similar challenge of, creating farmer awareness, finding a seed company that really has an interest and commitment in scaling a new variety. For instance, we see drought-tolerant maize is now being taken up all across the continent. It's exciting times. Farmers have more options than they had previously to address challenges of drought through early maturing varieties. So we're committed to providing the assistance that's needed to be able to get these innovations out. But part of it is, making sure we understand the problem very well. So it's a definition issue, and then working through, here's some of the solutions that we have available through our innovation labs, and trying to right size what's the potential solution that matches that particular problem, and then make a market, right? Find out what's the best business model forward.
Thanks for that.
Thank you. And government intervention, just that the last part of my question, how have you been able to leverage on government-owned platform to domesticate a lot of these innovations?
Well, so I mean, there's challenges with government that we don't have with the private sector. If a regulatory framework or a tariff structures aren't amenable, that is certainly a challenge. Governments are going to do what governments are going to do, and we recognize that. But we work closely with government to try to provide an enabling environment that is conducive for innovation and for take-up of innovations. Sometimes it's just a matter of creating awareness. Sometimes it's more intensively building capabilities on the side of government, and USAID, through some of our implementing partners, do provide that type of assistance. But we need to understand the particular, really specific challenges for a particular country environment, because every country is different.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for the questions. I see more hands being raised, so it's really great to see such great engagement. And if we haven't been able to get to your questions in the chat box, they're almost coming in faster than I can keep up with them. Please do feel free to raise your hand, and we'll make sure to get to you in that way also. Mark, at the moment, I see a hand raised and a question from Andy, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name. So you can go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you very much. This is Andy from the Power of Participation. We work with farmers across the whole Africa. We have MOUs with government.
Andy, I'm sorry, Andy, we're having a very hard time hearing you. I hope it's not just on my end, but your microphone sounds a bit muffled.
Is it okay now?
It's a bit better. Mark, are you able to hear okay? Your ears are the ones that need to hear the most.
I'm struggling, but go ahead. Hopefully I'll be able to hear the question.
Okay, I say I work for the Power here in Ethiopia. We have MOUs with most of the government. My question is, we have been promoting private sector in Ethiopia and Uganda. if you train the smallholder farmers, those service provider models are found to access that technology, is it possible? Is it allowed that they can replicate, they can produce more without patent rights within their local community? So can they spread them out? Thank you very much.
Did you pick that up, Katie?
I didn't. I'm afraid not, Andy. We might need you to type your question in the chat box if you don't mind, and I will make a
Okay,
special effort to capture it for you. And let's see, while we're waiting there, if there are any other questions, I don't see any other hands raised at the moment, but if you do have a question, please go ahead and come off mute and let Mark know. And while everyone is doing that, I'll scan the chat box here. I see a hand raised now from William. If you'd like to go ahead, William.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mike. That was a very wonderful presentation. My question is, looking at the dry card, very brilliant and very good innovation. And we're looking at getting these innovations across to the grassroots, the smallholder farmers. And many a times when we see this kind of innovations, how do we have access to this innovation? And how can we convey this same innovation of yours to the to the smallholder farmers in our various countries? Because it's a good innovations. And many of us want to see these innovations in our country be implemented. So how can we have access to these such innovations? Are we going to be trained on how to use it? And how can we train other smallholder farmers in our various countries to also key into this innovation of yours? That is my question.
And that is a question that we really appreciate. This is why we are here today, trying to advance our innovations in the way that we're doing. We're trying to explore every avenue possible to get this kind of information in front of an audience and the people who could benefit from it the most. So your being here is one step that we're taking to try to achieve that objective. And so for those of you who are participating in this session, we want you to let us know of your interest in the dry card or any of these other innovations. And we are committed to following up and taking the steps needed to get the dry cards, the information to start with, and then the actual application afterwards to you, the people here who are interested in them. So it's a matter of exchange. Let us know of your interest. We will happily follow up with you. For those people in the sessions who are connected to our USAID missions, let them know of your interests, and we will, with as much determination as possible, figure out how to get this information to you, help you explore what the best solutions are, and work with you, train people, train agri-dealers, whatever it is that's going to make the most sense from a market perspective for getting these innovations out. So really appreciate that question. And what we're doing today is a initial attempt by us to explore as many means as possible of getting these innovations out.
Thank you for these really excellent questions. Mark, we have another one here in the chat box. I'll just flag for you too from Yakubu with the Department of Agriculture. And they're asking, are there any low-cost technologies or innovations to ease harvesting in soybean for women smallholder farmers?
And our soybean innovation lab is perfectly positioned to be able to address that question. And my reaction is yes, but I think in the interest of making sure that you get the proper solution, the best people to talk to are those in our soybean innovation lab. And so we'll be glad to direct your question to them, and hopefully they'll be able to follow up with you.
I don't see any new hands raised. If there are additional questions, please feel free to take yourself off of mute and let us know. In the meantime, I will re-enter our email addresses into the chat box so that you have access to those. And while I have a moment, I'll highlight again for everyone that may have come in
hello, Katie.
more recently.
Yes, Katie.
Yes.
Hi,
Please go
Katie. Brighton again.
Hi, Brighton. Please go ahead.
Yes, Katie, is it possible for me still on post-harvest issues, but I do work so much on cassava, which is tapioca. But I would like to, because we are dealing with the innovations, so I would like to find out if there could be room where we share information with the guys that are involved with the innovations vis-a-vis the issue to do with cyanide. Because part of my work involves putting up a number of raw materials and then compounding them into one product. But sometimes you may face a challenge of one raw material posing a danger to other materials that could be safe. Now, my question really is that could there be room for us to look at testing of cyanide? Because in my country, yes, it can be tested, but it takes time, probably with an innovation like the Australian testing kit, which is very easy to carry and also use. But could there be a room for these innovation labs to try and develop one that probably could be suitable for third world countries? Thank you.
So that's an excellent question. And it is, it points in the direction that we want to see with respect to the demand, the needs of the field coming to us, where we're able to take them on and explore what the solutions might be. So our innovation labs, this is one of their opportunities, is to work to solve problems such as you've identified that originate from the field, from actual operations. I don't know myself what the answer to your question is, but we do have people in USAID who are working on issues of food safety specifically. And I think cyanide in food is definitely a food safety concern, and it's one that we can see if we have some expertise that we could direct you to that would allow you to get the information that you need on how to solve that particular problem.
Thanks, Mark. I see another question coming in from Dr. Henry, and your last name is cut off for me, but Dr. Henry, I see a question and a hand raised from you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that great presentation. My question or comment is about the innovations versus the digital or technology literacy, especially in the context of Africa. So you'll find that most of the issues affecting African countries or territories or regions, as far as agriculture is concerned, almost the same. But there is lots of languages, and not everybody is going to communicate in English or in French, or say Kiswahili, which is predominantly the languages or Arabic. So how is the Innovation Lab catering, one, for digital literacy rollout, but also customizing these innovations to the specific languages. Of course, not all languages, because each country has some general common languages, but also to the appropriate technology for the specific country terrain or topography. I would be interested in knowing more about how this is customized and aligned with within the context of, say, specific value chains or territories or regions, but mostly in light of digital literacy, which uptake and adoption is really pretty low, because that's a space in which I operate on the continent. Thank you so much.
Yes, and I'm glad to be able to at least start to answer that question. So one of our innovation labs has an arrangement with Michigan State University, whereby they develop animations on how to use some of the innovations that have come out of our innovation labs. I am going to enter right now an email address, so hopefully you see that. A web address for SABO is the name of the resource. And if you go there, you'll find a whole library of animations that match up with some of the innovations that have come out of our labs. But they're also often looking to develop new animations to match interests in particular technologies and innovations. And so I think that's a great opportunity for you to explore. And I think on their website, you can actually express interest yourself in finding out more about how to use their or access their services.
Thank you for that question. Let's see. I do not see any additional hands raised at the moment. If anybody has a question and hasn't had the opportunity to raise your hand yet, please feel free to.
Okay, oh, sorry, I hadn't sent this to everyone. So now I just sent it to everyone. Okay, well, I think we've covered most of the ground. I see in the chat, I haven't had a chance really to look at it myself, but there are a whole lot of additional resources here that people are entering that I think are going to be a library in themselves of resources that everyone in this session can take advantage of. I mean, my goodness, look at what our colleagues have put in here in terms of things that they're working on. So I think there's really a fantastic opportunity just to network and take advantage of what we're seeing in our own chat box here in this session.
Thanks, Mark. Yes, please. We absolutely encourage you to to check in with each other and link up with each other based on all of the rich information that has been dropped into our chat box. I'll take a moment and just to note also for those that have come in a little late, all 13 of the innovations that we have featured in our innovation showcase, you will be able to find and explore in depth in the Agribusiness DealRoom marketplace. When you enter the marketplace, if you type USAID into the search bar, it will pull up all 13 of the innovations that we are featuring. And as Mark had mentioned earlier in our presentation, this is just a very small sample of the pipeline that is being developed through our innovation labs. I will type our email addresses into the chat box once more so that everyone is able to get these if we were not able to answer any questions for you today. And the one last thing I will highlight for everyone is that we will be having this very same session again. If you weren't able to capture as much information as you wanted, or you'd like to come back to network with some of the group that will be in attendance, we'll be having the same session again at the same time on Thursday, September 9th. And the link to add that to your agenda is available in the Agribusiness DealRoom. With that, since we still have some time, I'll just double check quickly. Are there any other questions or any other new hands raised? Anything maybe you want to ask each other while you have each other in the room?
All right, I think we're probably done.
Great. Well, thank you so much again, everyone. And please, I will drop our email addresses into this chat box one more time before you leave. Make sure to grab those. If there's anything you weren't able to catch today, please come back and join us on Thursday morning. And you will be able to find all 13 of our innovations uploaded into the marketplace with quite a bit of additional content on all 13.
All righty, thank you again for joining us, and again, we'll be back on Thursday, but have a great AGRF, everyone.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Asanteni.
Tena shukran, kwa heri.